How should we work with our new colleague, AI? Welcome to FLAIRS, the podcast, conversations with the sponsors of the 2023 edition of FLAIRS. We're not looking for sales pitches, but for good stories and true insights. 10 minutes of healthy food for thought. Who would say no to that? And my guest in this episode is Ignacio Vaccaro.
Correct.
Do I say it right?
Very well, thank you.
We practiced a long time on this.
Yeah, very much.
Okay. Ignacio is from Argentina, originally, and he's head of strategic alignment and business acumen practice at BTS Europe, which is not, unfortunately, the Korean boy band.
Sadly to disappoint you, but my dance is quite limited.
But you have colleagues in Korea.
We do have an office in South Korea, yes.
Okay, well, enjoy the fame anyway. A fun fact about you, in 2018, you crossed the English Channel swimming.
That's right, I found a really inefficient way to go from England to France. So I swam. It took me 12 hours.
12 hours?
Yeah.
I'm not an expert, but it sounds pretty quick.
Yeah, below average, but still quite a busy day.
Yeah. But why did you do it?
I was always into swimming, and it's one of those things. If you swim open water, the dream is to swim the English Channel. So I'm very lucky that I got to realize my dream.
Any next crazy adventures coming up? Or?
I always have something in the back of my mind, but for now the focus is on family and work. So yeah, for now my swimming is kept down to a minimum, just for fun.
But this is sort of what humans do, right? We're the crazy ones, we're the creative ones, and AI is sort of the boring.
Yeah, I don't know if the boring one. I don't know that if you asked, ChatGPT, how do I go from England to France? It would say swim. I would probably suggest other ways. But yeah, maybe it's a human characteristic to challenge things and think a little bit differently and push yourself to do something maybe inefficient, but that rewards you in a different way.
Now, BTS, your version, is a consultancy specializing in the people side of strategy.
Yeah.
How are you guys involved with AI?
Yeah, the core of what we do, we work with organizations to help execute the strategies. This could be supporting specific strategic initiatives, building capabilities in their leaders. And more as AI becomes a more prominent part or a tool within organizations, it becomes more and more part of the conversation. How do we incorporate it? What does it mean for our strategies? What do we have to prioritize now in this world where perhaps we have a stronger presence of AI tools within the organization?
In the heading, I compared it to a new colleague.
Yeah, you could think of it as a new digital colleague, very enthusiastic, wants to get going really quickly, but perhaps doesn't have a lot of experience and context. So we still need to give him a hand.
Yeah, so, and how is it going with that new colleague? Like, what's the kind of stuff that we ask him or her, or what is it, to do?
I suppose. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of excitement. There's also a little bit of trepidation. I think what we're seeing is there's a lot of support and a lot of doors that open in terms of efficiencies and generating a lot of insight from maybe vast amounts of data. There's also a little bit of trepidation in terms of what does it mean for me and my work and how I show up at work and what I do. So what we see is a little bit of that, finding that balance between what do we do with this new thing, and there's a lot of proof of concept and ideas coming up, and then what does that mean for the organization? Ultimately, how does that support our priorities? How do we use it in service of what we're trying to achieve?
Can you give some examples of the kind of stuff that we trust AI to do for us right now? Is that only the boring stuff?
There is a lot of what you could say, between inverted commas, the boring stuff. So AI is really good at maybe processing large amounts of data, things that maybe do that manually with human intervention may take a lot of time and might not be the most stimulating work. So AI is really good at that. But more and more we're using to generate maybe more creative things and more optionality into what we do, gets us going very quickly, is good at generating different options for us to then fine-tune and pursue and dig deeper. And especially in the banking, financial services area, we see a lot of activity. We see many of our clients and many companies in the industry investing large amounts of money And these are very, very significant investments for very significant parts of the operation. Think cybersecurity. If you look at patents in this space, for instance, if you look at AI and banking and the patents that are being filed right now, there's a lot of activity. The last one that caught my eye was one around optimizing hedging portfolios. So it's a fairly core activity, very important activity for banks, and this is where a lot of AI might go into the future, helping us optimize many of those processes. Also, lead generation, next best step generation, looking at a lot of data for, say, customer journey. So we've seen a lot of activities that go really deep into the core activities of banks and many other organizations.
KYC,
for instance.
I mean, transaction monitoring.
Yeah.
Who wants to do that when AI can do it way faster, way better, without any mistakes?
I don't know if without any mistakes, but yeah, very, very, very efficiently. Machine learning, large language models. These are tools that help us look maybe backwards into vast amounts of data. Something that if you think of do that manually or doing through another sort of human intervention, it might take a long time and might be quite error prone as well.
Can AI make banks safer? You mentioned cybersecurity. Is this something that is going to make us a safer place for money?
I think that from what we see, it can be a tool to make us safer. I don't know that AI is the unique answer. It's one powerful tool at our disposal. I think ultimately, and maybe going into the role of humans, I think it's a combination of both. It's a combination of what we can do as humans, what decisions, what insights, what contextualization we can give, how can we orchestrate what we do, the work we do, using a very powerful tool like AI. So I think it's a combination of the two things.
Yeah, because of course that's always the question: will AI take my job, or when will it take my job? I came up with these questions myself. I might have.
Did you have to?
No, yeah, that's how I do it. But yeah, in a few years, you're just asking the bot to do that for you. But how do you see the collaboration between humans and the bots, or the systems, or the machine, however you call it?
I think that what we're probably going to find out very quickly is what are we really good at as humans, and what is AI?
That?
I think that what we see humans do really well, typically we say emotional intelligence, creativity.
Swimming,
some of us. But in particular, I think giving contextualization. That's something that AI typically is not very strong at, and that's where we can really make a difference. How do we use things in context? How do we apply maybe the insight or the data or the analysis that comes out of AI tools, and how do we contextualize that to put it to work to what we want to achieve?
Can you give an example? It's a bit contextualized, it's a bit abstract.
Yeah, think of ING. If you generate data, if you use a tool to drive a specific process. I was talking to you about this patent for hedging portfolios optimization.
Yeah.
That will probably be something that you can use within your bank to serve a specific purpose. What is your risk appetite? How do you want to hedge? For which period? For which instrument? All of these things will have to answer to ultimately what strategy are you pursuing? And therefore, that will help you balance different elements, the growth you're achieving, the risk you're assuming, the profitability you want to drive. So providing that context in service of your own strategy, I think that's going to be still a human influence process.
Okay. Yeah. How do you see, because FLAIRS is about young professionals working in the financial industry, they might be worried about where this is going or interested.
Yeah.
What will the workforce of a bank look like, let's say, 10 years from now?
Yeah, that's an interesting
What kind of jobs will be extinct, maybe not existing anymore, but new kinds of jobs will we see pop up?
I think it is hard to predict, but what we've seen, especially when we speak to our clients, is the more analytical, data-driven works will get a big boost. And it might be that some works are no longer required, but it might be some of the new ones are required. And so understanding where we get AI to play a role and how we make the most out of it, that will probably be the job. I think it's quite popular now to talk about prompt engineering. So how do we use AI? What do we ask AI? So that will be a little bit of that.
A prompt engineer, what is that?
A prompt engineer is someone that is very good at building the prompts, building the instructions for the AI engine to obtain an answer from them. And it's, very deliberate use of language to say, what do you want to get out of that
like
particular question.
Good Google search.
It's very, very good, powerful Google search. So asking the right question, basically.
Are you good at it?
I'd say I'm average. There are some real experts out there, but I'm getting better.
Yeah, it's a bit trial and error, right?
It is. And that's the beauty of it. Within 10 minutes, you can see yourself improving a lot because you can try and try again and see what sort of quality of answers you're getting.
But you'll have people who have that as a job.
I think that will be one job. I don't think it will be a mass job. I think there will be more people, but I think that we will all have to acquire a certain degree of those skills. We will not all have to be the experts, but we'll all have to be a lot more in tune with AI, what it can do for you at a foundational level. How do I use it? Again, it can be at a foundational level, but also we'll have to be more in tune with the basics of data and how to use data and exercising judgment, because the answers that you get might not always be right and they might not always be complete or they might not always be exactly what you're looking for. So still putting that context, exercising judgment, understanding perhaps the logic of what you're trying to do, I think that will continue to be even a more important skill. We have those skills now. We'll probably need more of those skills going forward.
So what would be your advice for people listening or watching, not being a prompt engineer just yet?
Yeah.
What should we be doing?
I think you don't need to be, but you need to be aware of that, that is coming. And that is something that you might want to be familiar with. Be comfortable with the technology. Be comfortable with using it as a tool to do your job. I think that's the key. Embrace it. I don't think we can resist this technology. I think this is something that will permeate pretty much every industry. The key will be in us. How do we actually make the most of it? How do we use it to drive our objectives? How do we use it to give us an extra dimension in our work? I think that would be the key.
Mm-hmm. And where can I learn that, or who could I call?
I think each organization will figure out, how to do it. We do get those questions, at a higher level in
Should
terms
we call
of
BTS for that?
I think there is a role we can play there, and not to turn this into a sales pitch, which you didn't want to do.
No, I didn't want that.
And also, it's not the point. But I think that what we see is, look, ultimately, what we do, we try to help companies execute their strategies, and that will typically have three elements: the alignment within the organization, the mindset they have, and the capabilities that they have to deliver those objectives. And it's in these three things that you will see, the interplay of incorporating AI strategies. And we'll typically, start with the bigger questions. What is the use case for AI in our organization? What purpose does it serve? The platforms that you're going to use, how people will be inspired and equipped to use it, and ultimately what are the processes that we'll have in place to use it safely. And I think this is the framework that we see answers most of the questions and allows us to have the conversation around what do I do? What do I have to learn? What do I have to do as an organization? Framing the question in those terms typically helps us to get to the right way to support those companies.
And just try it out. Find a safe place where you can try it out, even if it's Santa Claus poems or something like that.
Yeah. I think trial and using these things, taking it out for a spin, that's the key. Getting comfortable with it. The benefits of things like ChatGPT is that you can answer questions all the time. You can use it within 10 minutes. You will feel that you've made a lot of progress. So yeah, giving it a try, putting it in practice and using it and trying things out, that's a way to get comfortable with it.
We'll do that. Thank you very much, Ignacio, for coming to the studio. I feel like having a swim, actually.
I feel right now will be right about the right time.
Yes. So this wraps up this edition of FLAIRS, the podcast. We have a couple more of these conversations on the same platform where you found this one. Enjoy it and have a lot of fun at FLAIRS 2023. Bye-bye.